little job. Father made me a barrow, and I used to fetch logs for people on street. Me about 8-year-old. And he used to give me a penny, a tuppence, sometimes threepence for fetching the logs for them on a Saturday. And then one day they said, "Oh, can you bring me some sticks?" Because then I bought them these sticks from Woodyard, which was on Car Hill. Harrison's owned it, and Horace Harrison was in my class at school. Horace used to get me my logs, bag my logs up, because he had to work Saturday mornings at Woodyard. And I used to say to him, Horace, put me a couple of sticking logs in, will you? On top of each bag. And he did. So what I used to do, I used to go back down to our house, chop these sticking logs up, put them in a bundle, and I sold them to customers, which made me another few shillings. I mean, food was scarce. We were lucky because Father worked at the substation just down Car Hill, opposite British Roads. And because it was a lot of land around it, and we cultivated that. It was all rough and it was a lot of work, but we cultivated that, grow our own fruit, veg and everything for ourselves. Also, we kept rabbits and chickens. So we got meat and eggs, and Mother used to cure the rabbit skins and make us slippers and mitts. We were more like self-sufficient. She also had a big pension, and when hens were laying well through summer, she used to put so many eggs away in, I think it was water glass or isinglass, and it kept the eggs fresh. So with fresh eggs, we'd still got eggs through winter, because as I remember it, we only allowed 1 egg a week. Yeah, there were hard days, but when I don't know, I only remember happy days. One morning, when milkman come, because he used to come round with horse and cart then, I'd be about 5 years, I would only be 5, 6, maybe 6 years old. And we used to put jug outside and just used to ladle whatever milk you wanted. And I went to the door one day, Father opened the door that day, he'd be on that afternoons or something. And horse started walking away. So Alan stopped it, and he says, "Go and hold that horse while he goes to these houses." So I did. I just got out of the ring and stood there, and so horse wasn't going to walk off. Anyway, I finished up going down the street with him. So then it became a regular thing. And then one day I says, "Can I go back with him?" Yeah, you're right. Because father comes from farming family anyway. So that's how I started going down to the farm. Mind you, it was a mile walk back. That's how it happened, and then I got going regular, and I loved it. The name of the farm was New Buildings Farm, Balby Car. It was right opposite a factory. We were building Wellington bomber bodies. Because I remember, I can see them now, coming up the lane on these long carriers. And my mother worked there for a time. I can remember land girls coming in a lorry, and also Italian prisoners. and they used to work there as well. There were no guards with them or anything, and it were, because they all worked together, and they were really good hard-working men, as I remember, and the girls worked very hard, but they were always singing, and it was, mind you, one Christmas I remember, because I was in St. James and St. John's choir, church choir. I could sing, I wasn't a bad little singer then days. And I remember one Christmas, we were in this, well, it was a downstairs granary really, but that's what they made it, where they could all go. They got chairs all round and a bit of a table in front. There were no electric light, because there were no electric light or gas or anything at farm. And they all used to have the lunch and breaks in there. And I remember one Christmas, someone says, "Give us a song, Roy." And I sang Silent Night for them. And they loved it. All the time then after that, until my voice broke, Christmas, I got to sing them Silent Night. I always wore Wellingtons, and girls always used to put string round the bottom of the legs, so rats' mice wouldn't run up the legs. Got started at top of this big stack, because we used to chuck sheaves across to each other. There were sheaves then, and then somebody'd load the thrasher. A chap come, and one of the girls says to him, "Tie your leg, get some string round your trousers." I says, "I will do when we get towards bottom of stack." She says, "Rats still come to top of stack." She says, "They still wet the way up." She says, "You'll get some." No, you don't going to do that. No. Next thing, he's shouting and squealing. He's got a rat up his trousers. And they kept saying, like girls kept saying, "Take your trousers down, take your trousers down." Well, he wouldn't take his trousers down, he just jumped off stack. And he set across field. And of course, Penny and Spider, two little dogs we got, were after him. Well, and then a couple of land girls went after him and all. Anyway, he's jumping about, and of course dogs by then around his legs, aren't they? They're after rat, because they could smell him. He fell down, and these two land girls trying to undo his belt on his trousers. Two dogs jumping in among them after rat. Oh, it was a scream. And of course, they finally pulled his trousers down and rat popped out, but he didn't get fat. Dogs got it. But it was a laugh. I mean, talk about memories of the past. It were marvellous. As I got older at Oswin, it must have been maybe I'd be 14, coming up 15. And naturally, we've been down at farm. I spent all my time down there. I was never away. Because I loved it. I suppose it was in the blood. Each year, during war, you were allowed to kill 2 pigs, for yourselves. We normally did one in April, March, and another one in November, so you could get it cured for hams for Christmas. I think that's where I became interested in butchery, because at 7-year-old I was plucking chickens and skinning rabbits, and when we killed a pig, my job was to get a bucket of hot water, scalding water, and hold the pig's feet in it until they softened so we could pull the toenails off. Yeah, I don't mean after we've killed them, because we put them on a big cratch, what we call a cratch, and then you just put hot water over it and scrape the air off. And then that was on a Saturday, and then on the Sunday we used to hang this big under a big arch. Then Sunday cut it all up, and I had 2 jobs. One job, Saturday after we killed pigs, my first job was scrape the runners or intestines. Scrape them and clean them, turn them inside out for sausage skins, to make sausage. Other stomach we used to clean and scrape for chicklings. And then when that was done, it would cut the fat up, which were rendered down for lard and dripping. Because there were always big, fat, 45 stone sows. And the back fat was about 4 inches thick. Then it was to salt, took it down cellar, big slabs round cellar, and salted it all down. We used to get big blocks of salt and scrape it, it all just broke together, it broke up, and then salted it down with saltpeter and brown sugar, and left it for 3 weeks. And then you just take it out and we up in the kitchen and slice some off as and when you're ready. And still today, I dry salt my own for make my own bacon. At school, we got to do something. I'd be about 14. I must have been maybe last year. Because we'd had the jobs people, what they call them, I can't remember what they called them in them days, careers people come round and they said, what would you like to do? I says, well, it's either going to be farming or butchering. And then we got to write about this career. Well, when the careers were there, I saw these books, 2 big books on the meat industry. So I bought them because I always earned a shilling myself, because there were no pocket money there. As I remember, we were always happy. One of the teachers that took us to Stratford-on-Avon, we had to write a thing about us, what we want to do for a career, and give a talk about it. So I thought, well, I'll do meat. Because I got these meat books, you see, and I got some big sheets of paper, and I transferred sides of beef, sides of pork, and lamb, and then I drew it all and quartered it up, cut it all up into different cuts and parts on beef sheep now, and then I got to give a talk about it. Well, they put it up on an easel, you know how you do. I think I were all afternoon telling them different cuts, what they were for, roasting joints, stewing joints, this, and how in different parts of the country they had different names for the cuts. Halfway through, he went and fetched R.V. Taylor in. Headmaster's office was next door to our classroom. And he fetched headmaster in to listen to the rest of it. All lads were really interested, because, and even teacher says, I didn't know all, he were overwhelmed with it, because he didn't know all this. And he said he was surprised how much knowledge I had. But when you had been doing it from an early age, you do have this knowledge, don't you? We left school on a Friday, started work Monday, and I started work at the Co-op Emporium in their butcher's shop, £2 1 and 6 a week. And I carried on then till I went in the forces at 18, did my 2 years national service, became a B1 cook, officer's mess, but I was company butcher there. On my 18th birthday, I buried my father. So they given me 3 months compassionate leave, so I didn't go in until February instead of going in October. Came out and went back to the co-op, and before I went in army, I used to go to slaughterhouse in Doncaster Market learning slaughtering because I wanted to do the whole lot. They offered me a job down there, so I went and took it because it was more money. Anyway, years went by and I worked for Fatstock Marketing Corporation, and they wanted me to go and work at this new place that opened in Carlisle. So I had 3 years up there, and then they opened a place at Swanwick in Derbyshire, and they asked me to come back down there. So I did, and this year I came to be at Sutton in Ashfield, where father, now I'm only 1.5 miles where father was born. All my working life, I've always had a really good job, because father used to say to me, if you're going to do a job, do it right first and do it properly. You know, if you're going to do it right. And I always have done. And I can still hear him at back here saying, you know, do this, do it that way. I have, and I've always had a good job and got on well. I've finished my last 20 years as slaughterhouse manager for a big company, Fatstock Marketing Corporation. I've got 40 men under me, and I taught most of them. Out of they've got depots all over the country, and they couldn't understand while I was getting £8 per animal offal, what we call green offal, £8 worth, and yet all other depots were getting £1 and £1.50 per beast. And they said, how did you do it? How do you do it? Where's it? I says, because I'm doing my job right. I says, and I've got the best team of men here ever. And I says, and they know if they don't do their job right, it's up the road. I said, they're all happy at the work. They know hard man, hard taskmaster. I says, but they also know if they've any problems, they can come to me. My office door's always open. I said, I treat them right. At Christmas, I have them all in office for a drink, mince pie, pork pie and that before they go. But they've got to, they've got to have jobs done right, and I inspect everywhere before they do. That's how we were brought up. You see, even at school we were brought up, you respected your teachers. You did as you were told. There was an odd lads that kicked over tracers, but 90% just did as you were told. It was automatic. And this is this is how I've always been, and still today. See, everything for me, all my life, wherever I've been, whatever I've done, it's had to be perfect.
If you would like to know more about the Ossie Through the Ages project, then please email me at tonyarmstrong1959@outlook.com. Thank you.